so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, so I remember I share and subscribe. Join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, monsters, and welcome to this week's episode of Monsters on the Edge here on the Untold Radio Network. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone out there. Hope you guys are all wearing green and stuff. If I was wearing green, you wouldn't be able to see it because, the green screen back here. So it would just make me invisible, and that would be a completely different episode. But happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody out there, and welcome to the show. I am your host, Barnaby Jones from Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. We got a great guest coming up here from Dark, Florida. It's going to be a really cool show. Looking forward to that. We are live here, so if you guys have any questions or comments coming in through the comments section, we'll get to them throughout the show. Drop them over there. But first, guys, we are going to be in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. My team at the Eau Claire Midwest Meta-Paracon, April 11th through the 13th. You can get all the information at midwestmetaparacon.com. There's a huge list of guests there. It's a big 3-day event, including some paranormal investigations, a VIP dinner, vendors, and so much more. Check that out. And then, guys, we head on over to the Wisconsin Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention. That is May 9th through the 11th. The VIP dinner on Friday with the Bigfoot expedition is now sold out, so we do not need to bring that up anymore. Saturday is over 30 vendors and all of our great guest speakers that you see on the screen: Stacy Brown Jr., Miranda Young, Scott and Hannah Violet from Squatch America, Chad Lewis, Angela Zabel, myself, and Keg, Rick, and Barbara from the My Haunted Hometown panel. So it's going to be a great day there. Also, that evening is the premiere of our brand new documentary, The Hairy Man of Dairyland, Wisconsin's Bigfoot. Check it out.
Right here in the road, and it was right on the line, standing right there.
Whatever it was breaking trees, breaking branches, and I've never heard that before. And from the basement door, I was like, Louie, I'm pretty sure there's a footprint out here.
And that's when the rocks started coming out of this tree line.
All I seen was hair. And it was like arched over right here.
And then out of nowhere we hear this loud, like earth-shaking grunt.
It rolled its shoulder and grabbed the ground and pulled itself towards my vehicle.
And I heard a plunk, and I come over here, and that squash was laying about right there in the middle of my garden, you know.
How do you walk in that in bare feet at 30-degree temperature?
Did you see that? What was that? I saw something dark in the light from the right to the left.
It was big.
Could be the elusive Bigfoot, maybe?
All right, guys, if you can't make it out to the convention in person, we also have virtual tickets available for just $5. You can live stream all of the guest speakers throughout that day, as well as you get a ticket valid for 1 month for the documentary as well. The documentary will then also be released on the Wisconsin Caps Patreon page for anybody to check out. Also that evening, the Psychic Gallery reading with Angela Zabel will finish off that night. So if you guys are excited for that, head on out to there. And then, guys, we head down to Chicago, Illinois on June 7th for the Chicago Paranormal Convention in Countryside, Illinois. And I will be at SilCon in Gaze, Illinois in September. I got a couple more events coming up to add to that list, but there's also some library presentations. For the full list, head on over to wisconsincaps.com, click on the public events tab, and get all the information. All right, guys, if you want to show your support for all things here on the Untold Radio Network, here's how.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
All right, guys, as I said, we are live in studio today. So if you have any questions for our guests throughout the show, throw them in the comments section. We'll get to them as soon as we can. My guest today is Brooke Moreland. She is a dedicated Bigfoot field researcher and the creator and host of the popular podcast, Dark Florida, where she delves into the mysteries of the Sunshine State and beyond. With a passion for uncovering the truth about Bigfoot, Brooke collaborates with researchers, witnesses, and enthusiasts across the country to investigate and document encounters with the elusive creature. Her curiosity and determination have made her a respected voice in the cryptozoology community. Through Dark Florida, Brooke explores the intersection of folklore and science, eyewitness accounts offering her audience engaging discussions and firsthand insights into the world of Bigfoot and other cryptids. She is known for her thorough investigations, captivating storytelling, and ability to connect with diverse voices in the field. Beyond her podcast research, Brooke is also a nature enthusiast, avid adventurer, and experienced hiker. Her love for the outdoors fuels her passion for field work, allowing her to immerse herself in remote wilderness areas and gain a deep understanding of the habitats where Bigfoot roam. Whether trekking through the dense forests of Florida swamps or scaling rugged mountain trails, Brooke brings an adventurous spirit and keen observation skills to every investigation. Welcome to the show, Brooke. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. I am doing well. I'm not sure, Lee, here, if this is a reference to the red beard and stuff here for leprechauns aren't required to wear green on St. Patrick's Day. I feel that's where Lee's going with this. So don't know how to take that, Lee.
It's great.
I don't have one of the cool hats though, so you're not getting my pot of gold, Lee. So, all right. Awesome. Well, I'm excited. We have a lot of different stuff to go here. Like I said to you before the show, we have delved quite deeply into Florida recently on my show, and I'm not sure if that's on purpose or accident, but we're down there again. So, but you have a lot of different ways that we can go with today's show. So I want to start off first with Dark Florida, your podcast. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so Dark Florida, I had this idea of starting a podcast for a pretty long time, and my friends just pushed me to do it. They were like, "You need to just get on this and just seize the moment." So I'm like, "Okay," because for me, my heart is in cryptids. I love cryptids, but I also love the paranormal and anything unsolved, any kind of rabbit hole that I can go down and theories to explore. I love it. So I wanted to create a place where all of those stories could come and merge at one location, and people could share their stories and learn more about all the weird stuff that is happening in our world, because there's some strange things happening out there.
Yes, there are. Very, very strange. And Florida seems like quite the epicenter of that. I mean,
It is.
so much weird stuff going on down there. I was skimming through the list of your shows and stuff, and I saw that you had an episode on the Coral Castle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why don't you tell little people, because it's St. Patrick's Day, all about that.
Yeah, so Coral Castle was built by a man, single guy, Ed Liscallin. I always struggle with his name. He was a Latvian immigrant, and he built it all by himself. And if you look up pictures of him, he was, I think, like 5 foot tall. He was a really sickly gentleman. He had suffered through different ailments throughout his life, and he supposedly built this all by himself. And if you plug into Google Coral Castle and you see it, you're going to say, how did he build this on his own? And that's really the $1 million question. Is he built these sculptures that were made out of limestone and this coral, and there's giant obelisks, moons, stars, planets. He built this entire solar system, this bath, and these are ginormous structures that weigh tons and tons of pounds. And he supposedly did it all by himself. And when people would ask him, how did you do it? He said, it's not hard if you know how. And so he studied supposedly ancient pyramid knowledge, and he built it with just a tripod with a little black box on it. So a lot of talk about like anti-gravity and things like that is how he was able to move these tons just effortlessly.
It's a fascinating story. I've kind of delved into that over the years as well, and it's just really interesting. Like, I don't know. Yeah, you did a very good job summing it up, because it's interesting. Like, I don't know how he did it or what, or why, but it's definitely.
Yeah, and one of the best parts about that story is that in the 80s, so you can actually still go and view this, but in the 80s, one of the mechanisms broke on the doors he had. So he had this ginormous door that was just on this hinge that nobody could figure out. And they tried to repair it, and they could never bring it back to how it was original. They can never repair it back to its original state to get it to flow so effortlessly. So even with modern machinery, they still weren't able to fix it the way that he did.
Yeah, it was a huge, heavy door that would easily open and shut with just like the finger touch of it. So yeah, that's interesting. Very cool. Very cool. Definitely suggest people go check out that episode, because I'm sure you go a lot more into it, and definitely interesting if you're into weird things down in Florida. And you got, so many other things like you've talked about on other shows and stuff as well, like all the paranormal stuff down there. You said it was St. Augustine was the first United States city.
Yes. Oldest city in America.
That's interesting. And you don't think about that. Like, you always think of like New England being the first and the first being settled and stuff.
Right. That is kind of where your mind goes to. And there's a fascinating YouTuber, Dr. Margot Longo, who does Old World Florida. That's even crazier. If you watch any of his stuff, he has a theory that Florida could be the Garden of Eden, where it was like actually, and that's that is its own episode right there. But really cool. So yeah, Florida is ancient. It really is.
Wow. Do you know who the first settlers there were? Was that the Europeans or?
I think it was the Spaniards.
Okay.
I want to say, outside of the indigenous people, I want to say, yeah, it was the Spaniards.
Very cool. Very cool. Lee says her honeymoon was in St. Augustine. That does not surprise me, Lee. Awesome. Yeah, so St. Augustine, you said as well, was the Fountain of Youth is supposed to be there.
Yes, yes, it is. And you can actually go, that's a really cool place to go visit too. That's a beautiful area right there. And you can go and drink the water. You can take some of it home with you. And it has to do with like the minerals that are in the water. It's supposed to have everything that your body needs. So, yeah.
That's why all the old people flock down there.
Yeah, exactly. That and the warm weather.
Yes, there you go. All right. Well, so moving right along here. The other thing that I heard you mention, which caught me off guard down in Florida, is you said that you get a lot of reports of what they call like the pale crawlers.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because that's not something. I mean, I have a guest on here that literally is writing, actually two guests that have written books on them and stuff. And they've talked about the connection between like the pale crawlers and the wendigos or the skinwalkers all kind of being the same thing with just different names. And I've always found that very interesting because you look at the history or the lore of those creatures and they do kind of, everyone thinks that they're these deer-headed creatures and stuff, and they're not. They're emaciated humans, which is what a pale crawler is. So tell us a little bit about, how often do you get reports? Have you seen one of these things down there? What's going on?
I have not seen them. I think that's one thing I don't think I want to. If I could avoid it, they're not usually synonymous with positive things. So I think I would be terrified, to be honest with you. I know several people personally who have encountered them, and it's really crazy because specifically talking about Florida, I know that in the Panhandle is where I've heard most of the reports come out of. Not to say that they aren't in other places, but I know specifically in this certain area of the Panhandle, I have had 3 different people who do not know each other tell me these stories. And with that is it, I don't know if it ties back to the Indians who had settled there before. Actually, I take it back. I've had at least 4 people share with me their stories of things that have happened and unprompted. So I know a couple of people, obviously they know I'm a podcaster. They know that I go do this stuff, but we were actually camping at this campground and we'd run into a lady. She thought we were going hunting because we had on our orange and camo and stuff. And we're like, no, we're not doing that. We're here for Bigfoot. She's like, oh, that's interesting. She's like, I don't know about Bigfoot, but I can tell you about the skinwalker. And we were like, what? And so she starts sharing with us these stories about her encounter of what she experienced there with the skinwalker and how she had seen it when she was in high school and all this difference and just different people corroborating each other. So that really got my attention. And then the more that I hear about it, we were actually up at a property there that has portal activities. Allegedly, the DOD has been out to this property and has done some investigations and told the owners of that property that they do indeed have 3 portals there. And I'm listening to her tell her story, and she's bringing up that they have had skinwalker activity, the rake, and they've even seen, what is that one wolf, the dire wolf on the property along with Bigfoots. And I was like, do you guys happen to have like have you ever gotten the ground tested to see what minerals are here? Do you guys have like any concentration of quartz here? And she was like, actually, we do. And I was like, I knew it. So it's really interesting. I think like when you do have, let's specifically talking about like the portals, when people report that, you have all of these strange things happening outside of Bigfoot, but you have the skinwalkers coming through. You have these wolves, these dogmens potentially. So it's really interesting. Something is definitely happening in that region when it comes to the skinwalkers, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. You bring up like the minerals and stuff. I want to say there's Blind Frog Ranch out in Utah, as well as Skinwalker Ranch, and both of them have very weird minerals under the property. I want to say some of the stuff that was from Blind Frog was from an asteroid crater that they believe that this stuff could only have gotten there from there. And then on Skinwalker, they also said that this was like possibly a meteor impact area as well, that they had the stuff there. So I'd be wondering if maybe you have like an impact site or something there as well.
I think it's possible. And when you talk about like the Appalachia area, this particular region of Florida is where it starts. So I wonder if there's even some of that. I mean, that's the oldest mountain range in the world. So it's very old. So my mind kind of goes there too. But yeah, I'd love to find out.
Like a very old impact crater, kind of, maybe.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, with all the stuff in Appalachia and, all the way West Virginia, all that area there. I mean, you have just countless sighting reports of weird things and creatures and people and,
Yeah, people for sure.
We went down to Kentucky and Tennessee, and we said, hey, we're going out in the woods, to look for Bigfoot. Is there anything here that we need to worry about? And they said, oh, be very careful. We said, oh, yeah, do you have like, bears, mountain lions? They said, no, there's people out there. And we're like, oh, okay, yeah. So
yeah. Well, see, I don't think Florida. Okay, so Florida's thing is the feral people, and we'll get to that. But when we went to the conference this past July in Tennessee, and we were at the rental car location, they did tell us, but because like, oh, what are you guys here for? Oh, we're here for the conference, blah blah. And we were warned about the people in the woods, but it was mostly from the stills. I guess they still do. The moonshine and stuff out there. So they were like, if you come across it, like they've got cameras, you need to leave, act like you didn't see it, don't mess with it, don't take pictures. They were like, you just need to keep on going. And I'm like, oh, okay. But as far as people in Florida, there's the feral humans here in Florida that you hear about a lot. So not the bootleggers.
Interesting. Yeah, like I said, Florida is a very interesting state. So one of the things I was going to bring up is the fact that Florida is the wintering grounds for a lot of the circuses, back in the day. And there are so many weird creatures and stuff. I mean, just the illegal pet trade and, the people releasing odd animals and stuff. You have that down there. But back in the day, you also had all the circuses that wintered down there. So who knows all the things that, back in the day, just kind of, we don't need you anymore, or it escaped or what have you. So you have no idea what from around the entire world is running around down in Florida that may still be out there. So
the oddities. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. The sideshow oddities too, as well.
Yeah.
Ran off from the circuses down there. So yeah, I'm very big into the circus stuff as well. So I like Sarasota and stuff. I honestly I have not been to Florida ever. Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, that little corner of the US I have not gone to. And I also haven't been to Montana and Washington and the other one over there, Oregon.
Okay, well, here's the deal. So I'll come to Wisconsin because
Okay.
I've never been there.
See?
When you come to Florida, we'll show you around to some good spots.
Sounds good. I got to get down there. I speak at a lot of conventions, and I'm waiting for a convention to book me in Florida. So that's my goal, is to get down there and have someone else pay for it. So
Right, absolutely.
that's definitely my goal, is to get down there. So, but yeah, it's really cool. I would love to come down there. It's one of those places though that I feel like I wouldn't be able to just go down there for like a weekend, because there's so much stuff that I'd want to do and look into that I'd have to like take a whole week and see more stuff down there. So that's interesting. But
Yeah, there's a lot to cover.
yeah, Sarasota is the Circus World. The Ringling Mansions and stuff are down there. The Circus World Museum and stuff down there. We have Circus World Museum here in Wisconsin because we were the Ringlings winter quarters up here as well.
Oh, very cool. I didn't know that.
We in Sarasota in Wisconsin here, Baraboo, Wisconsin, is the circus capital of the world, and we have a lot of ties with Sarasota. So
Nice.
yeah, very cool. So all right, moving along. Oh, okay, so on the topic of that, one of the things I was going to ask you about is, I'm sure you're familiar, the Mayaka ape photos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Mayaka ape photos are supposedly this orangutan-like creature that's in this old lady's backyard, and she takes pictures of it and sends them to the police and goes, there's this thing in my backyard, I don't know why it's here. And they're they're pretty compelling photos. I would venture to say that they're actually legit and real, because I don't know if this little old lady took them. I don't know why she'd try and hoax it, or why somebody would be hoaxing her. But my question is when you get reports and stuff down in Florida, the creature in these photos is very orangutan like, right? It has the very long hair, the very orangutan like. So the reports that you get of the Bigfoot creatures down there, are they more similar to that, or more of like the gorilla with the closer cropped hair and stuff? Because we get a lot of that, like up by us is more longer hair on the arms and stuff, but the rest of it is more the close cropped hair.
Right. That's really interesting that you say that, because I think one thing about Florida that people may not know is that we have the skunk ape. It's kind of what we call it here. And there are some differences between what is in our environment than would be in a colder environment like yours. You do hear the differences in the color of a fur. Ours is more of that reddish, whereas if you get into the PNW area, you're going to get a little darker, a little taller. And here it seems it is a little bit of a shorter hair and a shorter build, but still incredibly tall compared to me or you. And still that broad shoulders and everything like that, but you definitely get the variations in the color and size than you would out in the Pacific Northwest, where they tend to be, 13, 15, sometimes feet tall. And here they kind of hover around that 6 to 8 foot range, although reports have come through saying, 10 and 12. So, it's hard to say, but just following where the evidence takes us, I guess. But overall, it's a little bit smaller than what you hear reported in most other places.
Well, it's very, very similar to the orangs then. Like the orangs are not a very large, I mean, they're a large ape, but, in comparison to like gorillas and stuff, they're very not that big. They're very shorter and squatter when you actually do see them stand up in that. So that's interesting.
It is.
I think that, are you familiar with Birdman's Law? Animal species, when they get closer to the equator,
Oh, okay. Yes.
they get larger. And I've always thought that was very interesting, because you hear, like up by us in Wisconsin and this area, they're not that big. We get like 6-7 foot tall ones, but then you hear about like down Texas, Oklahoma and stuff, and they tend to be a lot bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I always thought that was very weird, because, it's the opposite of Birdman's Law, is that the larger ones are closer to the equator. I think it's larger to the poles. That the larger they get to that, because the more body they have, the warmer they can stay. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
but it was very different, because with the Bigfoots, like Texas and stuff has a lot bigger ones supposedly than we do. So
Yeah. It is really interesting, all the variations, but you also wonder like age and sex and things like that, how that affects height and weight as well.
yeah, and it's interesting too that why yours would be more the orangutan like with the longer hair and stuff, but you guys have a lot of swamps and bugs and stuff down there, and a lot of people don't realize that these animals with thick coats of hair and fur and stuff, it's used as protection from the bugs, mosquitoes, things like that. So it would make sense that you'd have more hairier variants down in Florida.
Right. And I think a camouflage as well. I mean, so much to blend into down here. And that's what we always talk about too, especially out in the swamps, is that you get separated even from different people in your group, and the forest almost swallows you whole. And it's like if something freezes and is not moving, it makes it incredibly harder to see it when you're scanning. I mean, for example, I was just out in the green swamp with one of my favorite researchers from Ocala Bigfoot World, Kathy, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to take you to this place." And I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "I want to show you these mounds." And I was like, "Oh, all right, let's go." I was like, "I think I know what you're talking about." And we go, and she takes me and she shows me these mounds that have to be at least like 60 foot tall. And the craziest part is I've gone down this road. I'm almost embarrassed to admit it. I've gone down this road so many times, foot, bike, never seen them. So it really is crazy how much you miss, because just the forest blends in and everything starts to look so similar that just imagine something's just standing really still or like peeking out behind a tree. Unless you see it moving or something catches your eye, there's so much that we wind up missing. I think these things can blend in so well.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people, they see these road crossings and stuff, and the creature will cross the road in front of them, and they say, "Oh, it disappeared right into the woods." Well, chances are it either dropped down on its stomach or it's just standing right there at the side of the road. There was one of the famous videos that they went back and looked at that was taken, and they found out that when it left frame and they went looking for it and stuff, it had literally just walked off like 50 feet and was standing there the whole time. And because like what happens if you're an animal or something and you're moving around in the woods, one, you're going to be visible, you're going to make noise, you're going to be stirring all this stuff up, you're going to be caught out. But if you stand perfectly still, the chances of something just walking right by you, if you're, ground level or something, because how many people look down when they're looking for Bigfoot?
No, that's very true. Yeah. And a friend of mine, she has a theory that, so like a lot of Florida is swamp, but we do have some variation, like where I research versus Ocala. It's a completely different landscape. It's, I feel like a lot more dense, hillier, things like that. And my one friend had a theory that, so Ocala has a ton of bears there. And you know how like the animals start forming those trails in the brush and in the woods? Well, wouldn't it make sense, path of least resistance, for something to drop down on all fours and kind of take some of those tunnels and things? So that's something that we have discussed. Like, are they utilizing some of these animal trails from the bears and things like that? Because to try to go and just walk through this brush, it's like, it's almost impossible. So we definitely have talked about the all fours and stuff like that for sure.
Absolutely. When you're moving through the woods and stuff, following game trails and that, you're, average 4'6" up to, 6'6", the average person. And anything that you're going to break moving through those woods, you're a lot smaller than one of these things. And you got to think that if you're not seeing anything broken or moved in those areas, that something's not moving. But again, like you said, if they're going through on all fours or something like that, you always hear people looking for footprints, but you don't hear a lot of people like looking for knuckle prints, because if they're walking on their knuckles or up on their toes, raised up, you're not going to find a lot of these footprints because they're not the perfect, 18-inch footprint that everyone seems to be looking for.
Well, and so knuckle prints or hand prints, my friend Marion, her son had an encounter when we actually talk about it. And that picture is so cool because she went and she looked in that area. And so basically kind of what happened is he was out on his dirt bike, he's biking around, and all of a sudden he sees it. And I believe this was the second time that he had seen this Bigfoot. He had seen it at 2 different times, and this was a few years later. He had seen it again, and it was like eating what are they called? The palmettos or something like that. And it kind of ducked down, and she has this picture of this handprint in the mud, and it is so cool. But you're right. Yeah, we're not normal. We're always looking for the footprints, but coming across those handprints are really rare, but really cool. And and you know what? That's the other thing with Bigfoot researching, is that we are always constantly looking down. That sometimes it's like we have to tell ourselves to look up, because again, how much could we be missing because we're constantly like scanning the forest floor for any possible signs.
Absolutely. And you hear like a lot of the younger ones too up in trees. A lot of people see like the thermals or stuff of these little monkey or chimpanzee type creatures up in trees that could be the young ones. And we are not very good researchers in the long run. I think that's where we're getting at. So
right.
Keep your broader eyes open. But
I know we're just scratching the surface.
Absolutely. So in your bio, it says you're a Bigfoot field researcher. Now, are you actually part of the BFRO, or are you just a field researcher on your own?
I am just a field researcher on my own. I did, however, go on my first official BFRO expedition about a month ago. So that was really fun. To become an investigator, there's not really a clear pathway. So you kind of have to get someone to sponsor you, go on a few expeditions, which makes sense. They have to kind of vet you and make sure that you're, the right fit. So I definitely look forward to going on another expedition and hopefully, being a candidate one day. But hopefully soon.
I was just wondering, the way it was worded, I wasn't sure if you actually were part of the BFRO or just out there researching. So nothing wrong with either way. Just wondering. So, very cool. Very cool. All right. We have some questions and comments over here as well. I want to kind of cover this for a second here. Stone Picker says it's he just shared a video. It's really good posting of weird encounter of a very weird human that is crawling on all fours up the hill to these people. So you just posted a video of one of these? Is that what you're saying? Sounds like it. Very weird human that is crawling on all fours up the hill to these people.
And that's really interesting. I just want to say that I don't think we mentioned it when we were talking about the skinwalker crawlers. Is the reports I've heard, they are on all fours.
Yeah.
So that is interesting when we're talking about that, because like you were talking about like the Wendigo and things. Sometimes you have this not deer that are standing, but the reports I have heard, they are on all fours. Not to say that they can't be bipedal, but from what I've heard, it is literally crawling.
Hence the name Pale Crawlers.
Right.
But yeah, you don't hear a lot of people say, the uprights are these, walking creepy creatures. They're always crawling around. So I don't know what to make of that. We had one report of, they called it a Wendigo out in here in Wisconsin, and we didn't get to follow up on that one, but that's the only one that I've had. So
yeah, and the crawlers are strange too. Just to touch on that, is it's almost like I don't know if they're completely in this dimension or what exactly they are, because it's almost like, from what I've heard, one of the stories that I was told by a close friend was like that the front of its body was moving, and it was like the back half was like catching up. It was crossing the road, and it took up about a lane and a half. So that's pretty big when you're driving. I don't think people realize it, but if you ever stop and get out on the road, the road is a lot bigger than what it seems like when you're in the car. And that's a pretty significant size. But she said it was like the rest of its body was like trying to catch up to it, almost like fragmented in a sense. So it really makes you wonder what's happening, if it is more on the spiritual, paranormal side, or what's going on there.
Yeah, when you talk about those creatures in native lore and stuff, that's basically what they are, is bad shamans, or these medicine men or something that have gone down a dark path to get their abilities and stuff. So it makes sense that if these things truly are what the natives claim they are, that they do have supernatural abilities, and they would have one foot in the other realm and stuff. And it seems like a lot of the descriptions have weird hind legs too, like they're not jointed properly. I don't know how to describe it. It's like not, I don't know, like just weird, not like a typical human mode of articulation. So
right.
Do you have, or do you know of any of the native lore down there? Is there any stories of those Wendigo or skinwalker creatures?
Well, I was definitely told by someone who had a skinwalker experience in the Panhandle that the area that it was, there was a huge massacre that was there between some families who had tried to settle the land and some native tribes clashing. And so a lot of bloodshed that was there. And I always think that things like that can really be a harbinger, especially when, people die in such a graphic, traumatic way. I think that energy lives on in the land, and especially when blood is shed like that, I think it's really powerful. So yes, there is that, but then also in other locations where there's some Indian burial mounds, there's some strange activity happening around there. No doubt. I mean, some really strange stuff happens near those burial sites that are just unexplainable. I hope I answered your question. I kind of got.
Yeah.
Okay. So
how close is that to like Louisiana and stuff?
The Panhandle?
Yeah, I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's really funny because
Florida. So.
Okay, fair enough. So you have the Panhandle, and the Panhandle does it touch? Oh gosh, the geographers are going to come for me. I believe it does touch Louisiana, but it also touches Alabama and Georgia.
The Panhandle's the top, right?
Panhandle's the top area.
Yeah,
the
okay.
little.
That's what I thought. So okay.
Yeah.
And then when you said that, I was like, "Ooh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that doesn't come anywhere near Louisiana."
No, you're right. I think it does. I know
Okay.
the like I said, the geographer people are going to come for me, but yes, it touches those. It really almost honestly the
Alabama,
pan.
Louisiana. There we go.
Yeah, it's almost like the top of it really should be part of Alabama, but we took it.
Yeah. Well, that where I was going with that is, Louisiana is big into voodoo and dark magic and stuff like that. I'm wondering if any, where you're talking about the weird sightings, if any of that is, what's right under Louisiana and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, I
That
think
would
it's possible. Yeah, and I think when people practice certain dark energy and they're doing these incantations and they're messing with the other side, I think that they can definitely open doorways and things like that.
Mhm.
And sometimes they're not so easily shut.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we're going to get back to the comments and questions. So if you guys have anything over there, throw them in there and we'll get right back to that. While we're on this topic though, you were talking about like the battlegrounds and stuff like that of the Native Americans. And another thing that you find a lot with those stories is the dogman creatures. Now,
Mhm.
I don't hear a lot of dogman stories from down in Florida. Do you hear anything down there?
There's been a couple, not as many in other places like, Kentucky, actually up by you guys, Bray
Yeah.
Road.
Mhm.
But there have been some reported, but not as frequent, which those are, and you hear it about around the graveyards and things like that. And we did happen to find a giant canine print. I mean, huge, and we have some pictures of it when we were up in the Panhandle. But there has been some reports. I believe the last one was down in the Fort Lauderdale area, but you don't hear about it as much as in Florida. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but I personally haven't heard too many. But it's always in the back of my mind.
Mhm. Well, I hate to go back to Louisiana again, but Louisiana's big for the Rougarou,
Mhm.
which is the Louisiana dog man. So I mean, yeah, and that if my thoughts are correct that your pale crawlers and stuff are kind of near there, then that all kind of flows together there too with the burial grounds and stuff.
Right. And that property I mentioned earlier with the portals, they have reported that canine creature up there as well, the dogman creature. So I guess there is a little bit more than what I initially had thought. But yeah, that specific property is just literally crawling with activity. So
Uh,
yeah, so like I said, I'm always keeping an eye and an ear out when we're out there because we investigate some strange places. We go into old graveyards, we stumble upon burial mounds and other creepy things out there, so you just never know what you're going to find.
Absolutely. There's a lot of misidentification there too, when you're talking about the graveyards and stuff and the folklore behind that. And I don't know if you know this or not, but some of the old folklore of graveyards is the first soul to be buried in the graveyard is supposed to ferry the souls of everyone else across to the other side. So it was common practice to bury a dog as the first spirit or soul that is buried in the graveyard. And this is where you get the legend of the church grims, which are these large black dogs that hang out in cemeteries and stuff, and they're supposed to be the keeper of the souls or whatever that helps the other people cross over. So some of this stuff, if you believe in all that lore and stuff, these dog creatures that you're seeing in the cemeteries could actually just be church grims and not necessarily the dog men, the werewolf creatures that everyone associates them with. So it's interesting when we try and lump other creatures together like Bigfoot, all across the US and all across the world, we're lumping the same sightings together, and here we're trying to separate them. So
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up because I hope I get this right, but it's Anubis, that's the god of the
Yes.
dead in the Egyptian culture, and that's really interesting too. Bridging the souls from the afterlife to the underworld. So yeah, it's an interesting connection. When we went to the conference in Tennessee, they each year I guess they feature a new cryptid, and last year's was Dogman, and I was excited because I really like low key love Dogman. I really want to get out to the LBLs and do some more Dogman centered research. And my friends, I had already been like talking their ear off about all things dog man. So they're like, but we went and Small Town Monsters gave a presentation, and it was like, I don't want to say like everything I was saying, but I was like, I could be leading this presentation right now. It was so good. I really loved it. But I was like, see, I told you. And that's one of the things they brought up was misidentification. How it dates back through history, through, you know, the Egyptians and other cultures, and the difference between a werewolf and a dog man and what the differences are. So it was really cool, because there are actually differences between a werewolf and a dog man, which is crazy. I don't think most people know that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do a whole presentation on the history of dog-headed entities and stuff like that, and forgive me offhand, I can't think of it, but there's the Aztecs also have a dog-headed deity that is their farrier of souls. So it's again very interesting that you have these similarities between ancient Egypt, and you have you know, the Aztecs and the ancient South American cultures and stuff both have these dog-headed deities that are the farriers of the souls, or the afterlife. They also have, as much as we have the dogmen or the werewolf type creatures, these shape-shifting dogs. In the Amazon and over in Asia, you have were-tigers and were-jaguars. And these are part of the mythology. So you have the jaguar warriors and stuff that these people could change into large cats instead of just the large dogs. So, and in Africa, you have were-hyenas.
That's interesting.
So all
that
these
you bring up the cat.
Yeah.
I have a report of that here in Florida. Actually, the same woman who was telling us about the skinwalker. Well, so this is her story. I'll make it quick, but she had said they were at this fort where one of this massacres had occurred. They had brought their boat up. It was her and a friend, and they had gotten off. And she's hunter. It's part of the culture where she lived. She grew up in the woods hunting, so she knows what a Florida panther looks like. And she's like, they're not actually black, they're fawn. And she said that this was 4 times the size of a regular panther. It was completely black, and she said it like got down on all fours and it let out this scream, and it scared her so bad that she just ran back to the boat and was like, I'm out of here. I'm done with this. But that's what she had described as her skinwalker sighting. So it's really interesting you bring up the giant cats, because that's what she said. It was this giant, she said it wasn't a panther. I know what a panther is, but she said it was this giant black cat, and it was not happy.
You said it got down on all fours. So was it standing bipedally at the time?
You know, I don't know. I'd have to ask, but it what I picture in my head is it kind of crouched, is like almost in that like attack mode, like screaming at her is what I picture.
Okay. I wasn't sure which way to take that, so I wasn't sure, but yeah. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. All right. So I love we've also heard reports of these like upright alligators down in Florida. Have you heard anything about them?
I've not.
Okay.
But gosh, now I got to add that to the list of things to be on the lookout for.
Yeah. Linda Godfrey, who's the author of a lot of the Beast of Bray Road books and stuff, the weird, mysterious creatures and stuff. She writes about, and I can't remember if it's in Florida. It's not up here though. I can't remember if it's in Florida, but this upright alligator, not a human alligator, but an upright alligator that literally like tried to crawl up on this guy's boat. And then later on showed up at his house standing looking in the window. So
I wonder if that's actually I'm the reason why alligator, but maybe lizard man. I have heard of like lizard man sightings. So maybe that is what that is.
Do you have lizard man sightings down in Florida?
We do. So I'm wondering if those two are the same things, just different names.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. Well, I appreciate this because a lot of my guests come on and we talk about Bigfoot every single week. So I'm really excited to be able to talk about other cryptids once in a while. So I love this. But we are going to transition back to Bigfoot because that seems to be your main mode down there. So Pete would like to know, do you think that they migrate or do they stay in the same area in Florida?
We are under the theory that they do migrate here in Florida.
Okay. How so? Do they migrate out of the state or just around in the area?
That's a good question. We definitely think at least around in the area. And the unfortunate part with the development is that that area is getting smaller and smaller. I think Florida, again, last year was like the number one destination for people to move to. So please stop moving here. Um, but
It's okay if they die off really quick because it's usually the old ones. So yeah.
right. And so with that being said, a lot of that forest area is getting built up now, but there is still a significant area on the map. And my friend Marion, she has a theory on where they could be kind of crossing when it comes, and it's not just her, but a few other researchers in the area have this idea of where it kind of intersects. And there's that gap that they believe that this is where they use it as a crossing to migrate.
In Florida, you have a very unique opportunity that if you were, now this is very unfortunate, but if you were able to populate straight across the state, you could kind of box these things in and have a much better chance of tracking one down or, finding one a lot easier. And that's, again, very unfortunate with deforestation and, lack of habitat and stuff. But it does give you a very interesting opportunity for research down there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You mentioned Ocala a lot. I think, is that the same area that we were talking before the show that Dave Shealy was worried about this cell tower being put in? Is that the same woods, right?
No, he is down in the Everglades.
Okay.
He's in Big Cypress.
Okay. So then is Marie Dumont in Ocala? One of the
No.
people I just had on was in Ocala Forest, and
okay. So I know she does research out in that area,
Okay.
but I think we're based out of the same kind of area down in the Tampa area. Her and I are.
Okay.
That's where we live. But I know I do a lot of research in the Green Swamp. Her team does a lot of research in the Green Swamp, but we all venture out to Ocala.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say somebody just spent like half an episode talking about Ocala with me, and I thought that was where that tower was, but I know
No, that's down in Big Cypress.
Okay. All right. I got to get down to Florida. Then I'll know where I am. But
Absolutely, yeah. I know. We're talking like
Yeah, exactly. You know where that is. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the Panhandle is. So we're over there. But very interesting. So, have you out on your expeditions? Have you gotten to see one of these creatures yet?
Oh, that's a really good question. My gut is saying yes. So I've had a class B sighting. So if you classify them, you have a class A. A class A is you put your eyes on it, you've seen it, you cannot misidentify it with any other creature. You know exactly what it is. A class B would be you heard it, you saw footprints, you found hair, a sign that that creature was there. So that's kind of the difference. So I have had a class B sighting. I did find some footprints, but up in the Panhandle, I did have a class A sighting. We were out. We weren't even investigating at that time. We were just looking for an item that a friend of mine had lost, and we're walking down this trail, and I see these two lights up ahead. And the way that this trail was is it kind of curved around this lake and it came back up behind the campground, and the trailhead was in this like really inopportune place behind someone's campsite. So out of trying to be respectful to these people camping, I'm like, are we already back at the campsite? Because I see these two lights up ahead, and it's really high up. And at the campsite, they had these lights that were kind of up on this building. So I assumed it was that, but then they went away. And I'm like, what's going on? So I call the guy in front. I'm like, hey, Jeff, can you come back here? Like, I just saw these lights up there. Because now I'm thinking, are these headlamps? Are these flashlights? Is somebody out here with us? Because that's, again, even more concerning to me than Bigfoot is running into.
As we covered earlier, yes.
Yeah, someone out there hunting illegally, or someone who doesn't want to be bothered. So he kind of comes back and he's like, well, let's look around. So we turn our flashlights on and we're searching. I don't know if I specified that this was at night, but this was at nighttime. And I turn our flashlights on and we're looking. And so where I saw the lights would have been like at the 12 o'clock position on the trail next to this tree. And then I shine my flashlight around the 9-10 o'clock position and I hit these eyes. And these eyes were huge. They were looking right at me, and they bobbed in an unnatural motion, like up, down, really quick, and then gone. And I freaked out. I freaked out. I was really scared. And he said, well, whatever it is now knows that we can see it. And it is hunkered down out there. And he was like, we mean no harm. We're not here, we're not here to hurt you. Nothing like that. All's good, because now it knows that you saw it. You locked eyes with it. And, it was in that moment, I'm like, what do we do? And we had even kept going a little bit further. And he had said, I just saw something black paralleling us on the trail. I just saw this like black figure. So, in my mind, I mean, like, I know like that confirmation bias. I want to say that it was Bigfoot. I don't know for sure, but I do know that what I saw sent a chill down my spine. It was very freaky. And, there has been Bigfoot sighting in that area, but yeah, that's the closest I've gotten to laying my eyes on something.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard how far away, like, were the eyes? How big were they, do you think?
Pretty big. I would say I'm such a bad guess of inches and feet and stuff. So I've been really trying to get better at that. But I would say literally, I don't know, maybe is that 4 inches? I would say about 4 inches wide. I mean, and then
Eyes
up
were
on
4 inches, or they were 4 inches apart?
No, like they were 4 inches wide.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then when I saw them up on the tree, again, I'm really trying to get better with guesstimating height and stuff, but I would say at least 9 to 10 feet above the ground. That's why I thought we were back at the camp, because I thought we were seeing maybe some of the lights from the facilities that were there, and they were up kind of high. And I was like, what is that? Like, we're back already? And then when they went away, I was like, oh, what was that? So yeah, really freaky. And then just the way that it bobbed and moved, it was the most unnatural thing I've ever seen.
We had a research group here in Wisconsin as well, and they had a similar instance where they're looking out into the woods and they're on a trail. They see these eyes, they're watching them, they're bobbing up and down. They actually got this on video. It's going to be in our documentary, and they get hit with a rock from behind. And you're talking about seeing the eyes and then this other one trailing you. And from the way I understand your story, that was on opposite sides of the trail, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if there was, again, 2 of these things that, the one is like following you along to make sure you're not messing with the other one, or something like that.
Yeah, and through our research, I think that's one of the things that we found too by talking with people and stuff, is that I know that we kind of look at Bigfoot as like a singular being and creature, but honestly, from what I'm starting to kind of understand, is that they're not. That you might have one that you see, but you're right. There's another one there that's making sure you don't get too close, distraction, like making sure that you never get too close to one of these things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even that, or just a juvenile and an adult.
Yes.
Which would be, again, very, very similar to other animals and other creatures that are out there, that you have the protective nature of that they're watching you while you're watching them. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Have you, we're coming up on the end of the hour. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Have you been able to establish like any kind of knowledge, thought, or anything on your local ones that you're researching? Do you know like family units or specific individuals or anything out there right now?
I will say that we do believe that there is a family unit in the area that we research. That we, from the things that we found and other researchers have found, we are under the belief that in this one particular location that there is a family unit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the more research, like I said, from different researchers and stuff, there's juveniles out there for sure with these adults in this one particular location. Absolutely. I stand on that.
Cool. Have you been able to follow anything like a size as far as footprint size? Like, have you been able to notice like a small footprint get gradually larger over time or anything? It takes so much data to compile. The really good person to look at for that is at the 400. I think it's Shane Carpenter or He's been on my show. Yep.
Okay, yes, he has done some incredible documentation on that because that's private property. But we're just compiling the data and seeing where it takes us. But so far, I've found that one set of prints. I know some other folks have found some that are a lot smaller. So, and that was about 2 years ago. So I guess that kind of would make sense. But yeah.
Very cool. Have you gotten any audio down there yet?
Yeah, we've heard some very strange things out in the woods. We've gotten some responses from some provocations that we've done. So we've gotten some clear responses. We've had tree breaks, stuff thrown. Oh my gosh, howls. Yeah. Oh yeah, the whole gamut. Whistling, that's a thing too. So yes.
How
They're
does
vocal.
how do your howls and vocals compare with, like, say, the Ohio howl?
I'm not quite familiar with that off the top of my head. I will say the howls are interesting. I don't even know how, like, I don't think it can be compared almost to anything. It isn't like, I haven't heard anything quite like the Sierra sounds, but we have gotten back a response, and it is a howl, a clear howl. And it's like, what the heck was that? It's like one of those things. And then the coyotes kick up, and it's like, it's not a coyote. It's not anything else out in the woods, because we know those different sounds, and it's just inhuman. It's, I guess, the best way to describe it. Eerie.
Interesting. Yeah, the reason I bring that up is because, like, the Ohio howl is the Matt Moneymaker call that was recorded in Ohio. It's referred to as Ohio howl. It's a very I don't want to say monotone because it's not, but like a very howl.
No, I would say the one I heard most recently was very, I don't want to say screechy, but I personally, I think it might have been like a female squatch.
Okay, see, and that's where I was going with this, because then I've also heard from Australian Yowie researchers. Their howls are more like an air raid siren. They have modulating tone, and they believe that the straight, loud Ohio call vocals are more of the male, whereas this air raid siren, the woo, is more of a female.
Yeah.
So I always try and do the air raid siren version, because I figure doing a female vocal is probably going to bring in more attention than a male, because a male is probably more territorial. A female is going to elicit the interest of other ones, we'll say. So
yeah, that's a good theory.
Yeah, I don't know. So Australia versus the US, I don't know, but
right.
I have one more comment here. Bigfoot World Cryptids and Paranormal Central Florida says that they're in Ocala, and I would love to have you guys, if you want to come on my show and share your stories and stuff as well, shoot me an email at wisconsincaps@gmail.com, and we would love to have you on. And they said that they love talking with you and Marion. So
yeah, they're the best. Yeah, you got to have Kathy and her team on. They are fantastic, and they've gotten some really crazy stuff out there. So yeah, you should definitely talk to them.
Absolutely, I would love to. Shoot me a message, and we will have you guys on. Awesome. A lot of people said that Kim Kincaid is also late to the party, but very happy to be here as well. So very interesting. Okay, well, we are at the end of the show. If anybody has any last minute questions or comments or questions about anything in the show notes, make sure you get those guys in there, and we'll get to them before we wrap things up here. But I know that you're going to be at several events coming up here, as well as your amazing podcast and stuff as well. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody, where can they meet you in person if they're going to be down in Florida or anywhere else that you're going to be, and where else can I find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So in about 2 weeks, I'm going to be at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference. That's going to be at the World Equestrian Center on April 5th. So you can get your tickets at gatherupevents.com. Just follow the links there to the Florida page. I'm going to be part of the Skunk Ape Roundtable. I will also have a booth, so feel free to stop by, hang out, share, ask questions. I'm there for the whole day. So bring whatever you've got. I'm excited to meet and talk to everybody. And then if you want to connect with me or Dark Florida, available on all major podcasting platforms. All you have to do is search Dark Florida, and on Instagram, Dark Florida Podcast. And yeah, let's get strange and spooky.
Awesome. Very cool. All of your links for Dark Florida, as well as the Instagram, the YouTube channel, and your RSS feed are all in the show notes for anybody interested in that. And you can go check those out. They are there for anybody that may have missed it or likes the links better. So show notes on whatever platform you are listening to. Hopefully you guys can head out to Florida, because I know I would like to. So
Yeah, we'll have to connect.
Absolutely. Awesome. And your big, oops, not wrong one. This one. It moved just as it moved again, just as I was going to click it. Nope, that's not, Jesus. Anyway, your friends are going to stop by your booth. That's what I was trying to say here. So, there, cool. Bigfoot, World Cryptids, and Paranormal. Oh, cool. We'll stop by our booth.
Yes, they have a booth as well.
Too. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
it's going to be a good time. It's a party, I'm telling you. It's awesome. It's like our Super Bowl.
Very cool. Matthew says if I was going to be in the area, I would stop for sure. Unfortunately, I'm up in Canada.
Oh,
I'm almost there with you. You know, Wisconsin's almost up to Canada. You know, so I'll get down there eventually. So very cool.
absolutely.
Very cool. All right, thank you so much for your time today. It has been a lot of fun, a lot of interesting stories and stuff, and I'm so happy that we got to talk about cryptids other than just Bigfoot, because there's so much Bigfoot stuff out there, and there's so much other weird stuff going on in the world that it's always good to broaden our horizons and chat about other things. So
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. A great time.
absolutely, thank you very much. Make sure you everybody checks out your podcast, and hopefully can come out to the convention as well. Awesome. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
All right, guys, that is our show for this week. As I said, all of Brooke's information is in the show notes if you guys want to check that out. The links to Dark Florida on Instagram, the RSS feed, which is basically the podcast link, and the YouTube channel are all in the show notes. So if you guys missed that or want any more information on all of her work down there or her podcasts, check them out in the show notes. Until next time, guys, I'm your host, Barnaby Jones from Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, and this is the Untold Radio Network. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share all things here on the Untold Radio Network, as well as CAPS. So, until next time, guys, I'll see you on the edge.